3F Climate Justice Fellows for. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Day 5, 3F Climate Justice Fellows, Session 4. My name is Ariel, and I'm a climatologist. I'm a climate change scientist, apologies, for SIEGE at the University of Maryland. The Climate Justice Fellows program is a groundbreaking initiative led by the Center for Community Engagement, Environmental Justice, and Health at the University of Maryland. This 21-week immersive virtual training and implementation program is designed to equip individuals with essential knowledge about environmental justice and climate justice principles. The Climate Justice Fellows program places a significant emphasis on the Capstone Project, which serves as a culminating experience for the cohort members. This project is cohort members led, allows the fellows to take ownership of their work while receiving guidance and support from myself, Dr. Sokobi Wilson, and SIEGE. The Capstone Project provides an opportunity for fellows to apply the knowledge and skills they have gained throughout this program to a real-world problem in the community. By addressing a local environmental or climate challenge, cohort members can make a positive impact in their partner community and actively bolster environmental and climate justice initiatives. Now, in this session, our fellows will present their capstone projects. Topics will focus on the benefits of environmental and climate justice legislation to low and moderate income households, the creation of a climate action scorecard for Wicomico County, development of a workshop and guide on federal funding for communities with EJ issues, and regenerative agriculture. Fellows will showcase their community projects that are dedicated to making strides in addressing climate and environmental injustices. Welcome, fellows. I'd like to introduce my panelists today. First up, we have Stephanie Willett, who is a retired environmental protection specialist within the Environmental Protection Agency, otherwise known as the EPA. Additionally, we have Amina Oladapu. She's an advisory board member within the Montgomery Green New Deal, or otherwise known as the MoCo Green New Deal, I should say. And last but not least, we have Julie Jimenez, who's a community advocate and SIEGE fellow. Welcome.
Thank you.
Happy to have you all here.
Thank you.
Last but certainly not least. So first up, we will have Julie Jimenez presenting her capstone project. Julie, you have the floor.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ariel. And does this work well? Okay. Thank you all for being here. My name is Julie Jimenez, and the topic for my capstone project is about utilizing federal funds to advance environmental justice. So I will preface this with, this is kind of the beginning of the project, and so I'll just speak through a little bit more about my research and then the progress where I'm at now. Next slide. Yeah, so I wanted to just start to talk a little bit about me. So I'm a proud, daughter of immigrants. I was born and raised in Southeast Los Angeles, in a low-income, underserved community, surrounded by industry, highways, and because of this, my family and friends developed health issues, and so I recognized very early on that my zip code and race play a key role in quality of life. Because of my lived experiences, I decided to study social and environmental science at the University of California, Santa Cruz. I then moved to DC and have spent many years working on federal climate policy and advocacy, and recently got my MPA, Master's in Public Administration. I learned so much more about government administration and policy implementation. I was really interested to learn more about how recent federal investments from the Infrastructure Act and IRA could be equitably distributed and ensure that these funds go to underserved communities like the one that I grew up in. Next slide, please. So talking more about my project interest and federal funding opportunities for community-driven solutions, as mentioned, with the recent influx of funding from the Infrastructure Act and the Inflation Reduction Act, I wanted to learn more about learn more and explore how to seize on the opportunity to ensure that these dollars were equitably distributed and implemented. So through my research, I learned so much about the mechanisms which currently exist to make this happen. I was introduced to Brandy Espinola via Ariel with the Environmental Finance Center to partner with them and to develop a project. And I also dove in deeper on Siege's Match and Tic Tac program. Next, please. So two programs that support access to federal investments and technical assistance in our region are the Mid-Atlantic Action Hub's Match Program and the Environmental Finance Center at UMD. Next, please. So what is an Environmental Justice Thriving Communities Technical Assistance Center, a TICTAC? So Environmental Justice Thriving Communities centers across the nation provide direct technical assistance, training, and capacity building to support to communities and organizations to advance environmental and energy justice priorities. In partnership with NWF, Siege was selected as an Environmental Justice Thriving Community Center that received at least 10 million to help communities across the EPA's Mid-Atlantic region access funds from President Biden's Investing in America agenda. So how this will work, the hub will work closely with multiple community-based partners as core partners selected due to their experience and expertise in environmental and energy justice work. And these centers are currently scheduled to operate from June 2023 to June 2028. Next, please. And next is the Environmental Finance Center. So for actually close to 30 years, the EFC has provided direct technical assistance, policy analysis, and research to communities. And it's housed here at the University of Maryland. The EFC equips communities with knowledge and tools they need to create more sustainable environments, more resilient societies, and more robust economies. And as you can see, there's project areas, which include climate resilience and energy, sustainability, water quality, green infrastructure, air quality, agriculture finance, program policy analysis, and technical assistance. Next, please. So a little bit more about my project and sort of what I'm working on. As I mentioned earlier, I was introduced to Brandy with the EFC Environmental Finance Center and talk through some of my ideas for the capstone project. She identified that the center could use some support with communications materials and advocacy toolkits. So as I mentioned, this is still in progress, but I will share a little bit more about the focus. So I'll read the description of kind of what I presented to her and what we agreed upon. So partner with the EFC at the University of Maryland to develop marketing and communication materials with the goal of education around federal funding opportunities with local communities, policymakers, and other stakeholders. In addition, I will develop communications tools that are designed to promote engagement and advocacy around federal funding programs. So this is for CBOs and community members. And next slide, please. And so I also wanted to give a little bit more background on what technical assistance programs are. So what are they and how can communities tap into them? And so I won't go super deep, but the next two slides are just a snippet of sort of the communications tools that I'm working on. So if you can go to the next slide. And then the next. Great. Cool. So as I mentioned, this project's still in the works, and I think it'll take a little bit more time to develop. But I'm really happy that I've been introduced to them, and I'm partnering with them. And so I just wanted to share, my experience as a climate justice fellow and project next steps. And so, next slide, please. So the Infrastructure and Jobs Act and IRA resulted in landmark legislation and one of the biggest federal environmental policies won in decades. And so the results of these investments are thanks to decades of hard work led by environmental justice leaders and environmental justice movement that have influenced policymakers to finally take major federal action. In the implementation phase, we have the opportunity to center climate justice and ensure this is driven by people most impacted to build economic, electoral, and political power, transferring our neighborhoods and local infrastructure. Black, Indigenous, people of color leadership must be centered in decision-making positions within regional, local, economic development, networks, and ecosystems. And so recognizing that while these investments are historic, we must continue to work to ensure that we build local investment infrastructure necessary to attract and leverage philanthropic private dollars, public and private capital to support building community assets. Next. Oh, that's it. And yeah, I just wanted to say, thank you to Siege, Dr. Wilson, Ariel, for this really amazing experience. And I learned a lot. And so I know this is kind of just the pivot towards, the implementation of policy and making sure that our communities have these investments and they are leading projects based on what their needs are. So thank you.
Woo. Thank you, Julie. Thank you so much. I in an earlier session I was saying the variety, the interest that all of you kind of already came forward with was always very spectacular to me. I'm very impressed by our entire cohort team. Just even the capstone projects that I know you're about to present, we all know they're going to be hits. So thank you so much. And next we will have Stephanie. Yes, this was this one.
Okay. No, I mean, I will. Just tell me what to push.
Okay, I'll do it. I'll just stay.
Okay, thank you. Yes, there we go. That's fine. Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. The last shall be first and the first shall be last. But we saved the best for last. And again, I do appreciate the opportunity to participate in this cohort group of Climate Justice Fellows. Just a little bit about me. I am a resident of Prince George's County for 40 years. I've been here. I know you're saying to yourself, that's impossible because she doesn't look much more than 40. But yes, I have been in Prince George's County for 40 years. I am also, as Ariel said, I retired from federal service 5 years ago. I spent 20 years at the Environmental Protection Agency, where I was fortunate enough to be around in the early days of the NEJAC and was a part of that early iterations of the environmental justice movement, and I learned so much. Also, while I was at the Environmental Protection Agency, I spent most of my time doing pesticide regulations. I also worked a little bit on the toxic TRI, toxic release inventory. And so my background is as a chemist. But in the government, if you want to advance your career, then you're going to have to manage something or someone or some resources. And so I took advantage of or maximize my opportunity in the federal government to have a variety of experiences. And so I ended up retiring actually from the Department of Homeland Security. Had a wonderful federal career. I loved federal service. I felt like I was doing great work there. And since I have retired, believe it or not, I had the nerve to go back to school and complete yet another degree, Master's of Divinity. It was more of a burden or calling. People talk about their passion. It was my passion. It was also a burden and a calling to do more, do as much good as I can for as many people as I can for as long as I can. And so that is my mantra. That is what motivated me to sign up for this climate justice cohort. I've also, since retirement, been a member of a board member of a nonprofit in my hometown. So shout out to A.G. Miller Mayo Dungy Pine Grove Project. And they solicited my family to get involved with that because I had this experience as a government regulator, and I found much joy in helping that nonprofit get off the ground. So here I am, still moving about. My mind is good. I'm in pretty good health, and I wish to serve. I choose to serve. So here I am. I applied for the Climate Justice Fellows Program. I'm pretty sure I am the auntie or the grandma of the group, but again, no problems there. And I have enjoyed interacting with these young people. I am very much energized. And that was my motivation, again, to become involved as a Climate Justice Fellow, because I want to make myself useful. And so next slide, please. So by now we know all about the IRA and the billions, not millions, but billions of dollars that are attached to this landmark legislation. And while we welcome it, we've also heard over the course of the last 5 days that there's pros and cons, that it's our system as a democracy is flawed, but we have to work with what we can, or we have to do what we can where we are. And we've also learned that historically, even in previous iterations of legislation, that low to moderate income households have not had access to similar eco-friendly consumer programs. I'm going to focus mostly on energy justice and energy injustice as a focal point. And we all know how interrelated all of these things are. But just to make this manageable for myself, I wanted to focus on this eco or energy justice or energy injustice issue. So again, historically, low to moderate income communities have been left out of the process. I've learned some new terminology as a result of being in this program, that even the way we talk about where we're socially positioned matters. And so new terminology we need to learn how to use to say, again, to give us the attitude that we can empower ourselves, that we are not victims. And so I ran across this terminology. Instead of low to moderate, I'm going to attempt to use environmental and social justice communities. Those are the communities that are most impacted, but again, have not been able to acquire the benefits of previous legislation. And so we're going to take a look at what the IRA really holds for these communities as well. Next slide, please. Project approach. So if I had to rename this slide, I would say how to make myself useful in 4 months. That would be the subtopic. How to make myself useful to the climate justice movement in a 4-month period of time. Again, I'm a chemist, other experiences, but not a lot of depth in energy justice or energy injustice, other than my interactions with the United Women in Faith, which I've been a part of for a long time. So anyway, just a general knowledge and a desire to contribute. So the way you do that is you see what's already been done. You do a literature search, right? And then you as quickly as possible, scan the environment to see what's actually going on in this area. And then one of the requirements of this program that I took very seriously was to find a partner, a match partner. And I read the profile of Centro de Apoyo Familia, and I am just inspired by this organization. And we'll talk a little bit more about them in detail, of that organization, and what they are about in the next couple of slides. And then I had to physically go and be with the people, because that's what's required with community engagement. You have to go and see. And then I added my own recommendations or observations as a follow-up and ways to go after this initial interaction. All right, so tell you what I found out. Next slide, please. In environmental and social justice communities, historically, when we're talking about energy access or energy injustice, uh, these communities typically get the dredges or what's left over or what we call trickle down benefits, right? Because as we've determined or have we've seen over the days, the system is imperfect, and these laws are made without without enough input from these communities. And this is what ESJ communities typically get in the way of energy justice. Energy assistance, that's the number one benefit or direct benefit to households that households get. ESJ households get. In other words, they'll pay your electric bill. There are ways that you can get your electric bill paid if you get behind. They got that. Other things include weatherization and retrofitting. Here's the list: energy audits, smart meters, programmable thermostats, energy efficient appliances, light bulbs, rebates, tax credits, and solar and renewable energy. But here's the thing that we all also know: there's tons of paperwork that go along with getting any of these benefits. Even a light bulb, you're going to have to find the right person, fill out the application, so on and so forth. So these are the barriers. These are the barriers to even getting these direct benefits. There's a lot of paperwork that goes along with it. So just and of course we know where the streams of money are coming from: DOE, EPA, HUD, and so on and so forth. Many sources, but the story is pretty much the same. Not a lot gets directly to ESJ community households. So let's take a look at the next slide. Again, as a Prince George's County resident, I have, again, federal service and been all over the world, but when I'm honing in on my community, these are the things that I want to share with you about Prince George's County. Now, we know that Prince George's County is where the Black Mecca is and Black elites, and we're under the top Black communities, and that may be true. But here's the thing: the median household income in Prince George's County is $92,000, and that sounds like a lot of money. But I read recently that you need that to be kind of comfortable in Prince George's County. So that's a big number, and it's a real number, but place matters again. And then also on this chart we have $41,000 as the per capita income. That's about $20 an hour, a little bit more. But here's the thing: also 12% of the people in Prince George's County, the Black Mecca, which I did the math, there's about 114,000 individuals live in poverty in Prince George's County. All right. And so the poverty level in the US at this particular time is about $28,000. Okay. And at the bottom of this chart, we see where the US poverty level for individuals is $13,500. So you get the point. Even despite our wealth in this country, we still have about the national average of people that are living in poverty. And that must be frustrating to ride around in the same county and see big houses on one end and other people in the same county are struggling to get by. So that's where we live. That's where I live. Okay. All right. Next slide, please. Again, doing my research, I'm trying to find out, again, a comprehensive source for where I might find data for results from these various programs. I wasn't that successful, but I did run across this. And let me just say this. The first number is for repairs and accessibility modifications like ramps. This is a program that is coordinated through the county with Habitat for Humanity. And so for repairs and accessibility, 24 in 2022. For weatherization projects where up to $50,000 of money is available for home modifications and improvements. 28 people are documented as having gotten this benefit. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not happy with that number. And again, it may not be a comprehensive number, but if it were 10 times that money, it still wouldn't be enough. That's how I feel about that. So that's just a snippet. Again, that's what I found. And let me just share a story about my own experience. My energy company is Baltimore Gas and Electric. And I was offered an energy audit from my electric company, and I appreciate that. And they came and they told me all the things that I needed to do. And they did give me some light bulbs, but I had to pay for the installation and the other home improvements that they outlined. Okay. So that's how that works. Okay. So I can add my testimony and experience to how this works. And so again, you have to have a house before it can get weatherized. And if you're renting, then you don't have a house. And so you can't even get that benefit. But anyway, let's go on. All right, next slide. So again, Inflation Reduction Act, more of the same, just a lot more money, but basically the same avenues, rebates, tax credits, savings, deferred savings, and a lot of paperwork that goes along with getting these benefits. We've had interaction with Interfaith Power and Light over the past 4 days, and I found them to be very useful and very resourceful. And I sat in on one of their webinars a couple of weeks ago, and they said their information said that only 50% of people even know what IRA is, and only 27% have heard of electrification. So they're pushing electrify everything, but how's that going to happen? Again, hurdles, rivers to cross. They want your firstborn. They want to know about they want to know your income tax. They want everything before they'll do anything. And so that's what IRA is bringing us. More of the same. We're happy about that, but the processes are just as cumbersome as they have been before. Next slide. Now, you can see that. All right. So just by example, again, I'm not as spiffy with all of this stuff that you all had, but you see what's going on. This is my screenshot. So this is a takeaway from a opportunity that's currently available in Prince George's County, and basically it says the homeowners can get a rebate of $500 to $3,000, depending on what it is they're going to do. That's basically what it says. But here's the thing. It says somewhere it's basically first come, first serve. So basically, if you don't know about it, you can't get it, right? If you don't, and even if you know about it, if you don't know how to do the forms, you can't get it. And so that's good that people can get these, but because you got to know about it before you can get it. And it says first come, first serve. I'm blown away. It's like, whoever, the money's out there and y'all figure out how you're going to get it. That's not right. As Chris Rock said in a movie a long time ago, y'all might not remember that, but that ain't right. Okay, next slide. Thank you. And so enter Centro de Apoyo Familiar. And this is my new hometown hero, Ms. Walkeria Poole. We've spent a lot of time with her today. And she is my new hero, and I'm going to give you some fast facts about her organization, or the organization in which she stood up. Next slide, please. Centro de Apoyo Familiar has been around for 15 years. This is a high-functioning nonprofit. They have offices in Washington, D.C., Maryland, Virginia, and Massachusetts. Among the many, many services they provide is a first-time homebuyer seminar. And data that she shared with me says that they had about 2,000 people participate in home buyer related or home owner related workshops of some nature. This organization partners with 75 churches in Prince George's County alone and about 400 in all locations. And they are collecting data on the people that they serve. So they have a robust data set on households that they serve. Next slide, please. This is me hanging out with Walkiria at the Save the City Community Fair in Landover Hills. It was, again, just a wonderful experience, very encouraging to see all of the things that this organization is doing. I mean, like every day or every week, 2 or 3 things going on in August. Next slide, please. And then I ventured over to the Alexandria location to sit in on their home buyers webinar, seminar, first time home buyers seminar, to get a firsthand look. And I was challenged with keeping up with the Spanish, but I did okay. Next slide, please. And then we saw and met some of these young people during the lunch time. So again, encouraging, inspired by everything that this organization is doing. But here's the thing. Historically, CAF has been limited to distributing information about energy justice and related matters, raising awareness, advocacy, and similar, and things like that. They do not have the capacity to support families in actually getting these resources and these benefits because of it's a nonprofit, and of course they just don't have the capacity. She shared with me their attempt to provide support with the Prince George's County Rain Check Rebate Program, in which households could get up to $16,000 to buy things like cisterns or improve their storm water management on their property, rain barrels and things like that. 6,000, I'm sorry, 6,000 per resident. Okay. All right. Per person. So each property could get $6,000. But here's what they reported in their 2022 report. They had 133 applications representing 299 projects, and they spent $159,000 on this program. Again, that's good, but I believe it could be better with a lot more assistance. And Ms. Poole shared, of course, there's language barriers and things like that, the timeliness of the applications and things like that. So next slide, please. How am I doing? Okay?
Yeah, you should be
okay. All right. So Ms. Poole advises her wish list is to have more of a case management system, a process within her organization. Again, she has relationships. She's a trusted source. Keep up with people and be able to let them know what's going on in a timely manner, and hands-on to help them to assist with empowering them and also enabling them to participate in the climate justice crisis solutions. Okay, not just benefits, but helping them or allowing them to participate. And so I think she would know. Because she's been at it a long time. And then from my readings and from the webinar that I listened to a couple of weeks ago, this concept of nonprofits as aggregators piqued my interest. And that would involve the nonprofits having the capacity, the resources to take some of the financial risk or burden off of the households, so that they don't have to wait for the rebate and put the money up first, and so on and so forth. And so that's kind of my experience with that's my research project and my experience with CAF. And so here we are rounding up my 20-week experience with as a climate justice fellow. And so these are my thoughts. Last slide, please. I think the Climate Justice Fellows program is a wonderful addition to the building up of the core and knowledge base and practitioners, I would say, for this effort. I'm glad that I was able to be a part of it. But the speaker this morning was saying that because no one has said this is a crisis, then the manpower is slow to ramp up. So here's the thing: somebody needs to just go ahead and say it. And then I was thinking about some other experiences I've had. There are temporary workforces that could potentially be invited into the space for a moment. There's a lot of goodwill in this country, if I can use myself as an example. I had some experience with AmeriCorps. There are people that could potentially be part of a temporary workforce for this effort. The faith community is involved, and I believe this would be a topic for another conference, but they talk about the decline of the church. And what I think is really happening is that faith is being expressed outside of the buildings that our parents and grandparents built. I think the spirit is alive and well. But if I could just use an old adage or saying, people would rather see a sermon than hear a sermon. And so to the extent that people are visible and doing things in the world, we can make people better people, and make them believers of that God is still in control. Whatever you call God is still in control, because God is still in control. That's my preaching part right there. And the last thing I'll say is, don't sleep on us baby boomers. We're still out here, okay? We know a lot of stuff. They're talking about baby boomers about to retire. Yeah, they'll retire. They'll be about bored in about 6 weeks to a year. So they'll be still out there. So we have the power. And the last thing I took a course, Harvard Business School class. It was free. I have a great network. But the course was Power and Influence, and it said power. No one is born with power. Power is situational, and we all have power. And so what I've heard over the course of the last few days is that we have the power. We just have to use it to vote and influence others. And once we get to that critical mass of believing in ourselves and in our God-given talents and abilities, things will start to move. And I feel it coming. Critical mass is about to ramp up. That's a scientific term. And once we get going, everything is going to be all right. And so I'm all in for the fight. My colleagues are here, and we're about to do this together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephanie, for that passionate capstone presentation. Up next, we have Amina.
Good afternoon, everyone. Okay. So today I will be presenting my capstone project. It's called Sprouting Sustainability in Our Community. It's the inside scoop of the working of my podcast. And a table of contents, things that I will be going over. Introduction. So my name is Amina Oladapo, and I'm the creator of the podcast Sprouting Sustainability. Feel free to pull your phones out and scan the QR code, and it'll take you right to the Spotify link. Or I use the app Spotify for podcasters, and you can also listen to it on there. And this was research in itself. I did research with Siege, and it was amazing doing the research with my court members, getting insight and feedback. And I was actually inspired by Dr. Wilson. My Block Counts podcast inspired me to make this podcast. And I wanted a chance to play with my creativity on this. So I started this podcast because I was inspired by the community building unit, and I wanted to take a deeper look into my community in Montgomery County, speaking to like-minded individuals in the fields of agriculture and nutrition to discuss topics that surrounded food sustainability and food education. I've lived in Montgomery Village my entire, not my entire life, but K through 12. So it meant my community means a lot to me. The goals of this podcast was to gain insight for my future project on a community garden in my area, to grasp the perspective of community members within the field, and learn more about what's happening in Montgomery County food wise. So I have 4 episodes out, and I interviewed 2 people with farming backgrounds and 2 people without. I spoke to one of my good friends, Ruby, and a registered dietitian, Jenna Umbrick, and it was very insightful. Each episode is less than 20 minutes, and I hope you guys all take some time to listen to it because everyone comes with very rich insights and from different backgrounds. In my episode with Ruby surrounding food education, we defined our definitions of sustainability and what it means to us, how it should be taught, and our opinions on Montgomery County addressing food insecurity, specifically in Montgomery County public schools. We both went to Clarksburg High School, and this was a very interesting topic. I spoke to Jenna Umbriak about initiatives happening in Montgomery County currently and how the youth are involved, and we talked about food resources for community members. Kavya is actually a student at the University of Maryland, and she is the daughter of farmers and has a very good relationship with when it comes to farming. And we talked about CSAs, the ins and out of farming, the importance of understanding where our food comes from, and just general farmer education. Tope is a family friend of mine. She is the daughter and co-founder of Dodo Farms. And we talked about how Montgomery County can better support farmers, initiatives in the county, and sustainability practices on her farm. In my 4th episode, I had said the saying, food is healing, is so real. And what this means to me is something very deep because I believe where there's food, it opens space for community and sharing. I feel like where food is, there are people, and that is how we can build our community and all learn together. So some of my key takeaways after completing this project was hearing from farmers of color was very insightful, and just understanding where our food comes from. Food grown by minority farmers may more specifically cater to the cultural, dietary, or agriculture needs of various non-white communities. Not only are their voices important, but their crops and products are as well. Kavya, her farm specifically caters to Indian vegetables, and she has it's set up like a CSA, and it's important. And on the first episode with her, we talked about how important it is when it comes to serving people in your community, and she is in a Indian community, so growing Indian vegetables means a lot to her. And the second takeaway is in Montgomery County, food sustainability is being practiced at a small scale that is gradually growing. There are funded programs with Manna Foods, which is the biggest resource for food insecurity in Montgomery County. Manna and MoCo. I think a lot of people are familiar with Manna, but I feel like not a lot of people have the right resources to reach out, and they don't know how much resources are out there. So I wanted to touch on a little bit of what Manna does and some cool things I got to talk about and take a look into. Manna's nutrition education programs, including health presentation, mobile classes, pop-up pantries, or events. The mobile pantries consist of partial food distribution for up to like 50 families that are food insecure in Montgomery County. and they also are coming to schools soon, and they also have school-based pantry programs. I've actually done community service for some, the weekend bag program. I worked very close to Judith Clark, and she's with the Women Who Care Ministries, and we packed non-perishable foods for kids in that program. And cooking for wellness classes, wellness presentation, and chats with nutrition experts. Mana provides the lessons in structure and in-depth cooking demonstrations for the students. Some other takeaways I got was being in college and living on my own has really been a journey and opened my eyes to food insecurity. Myself and other college students, we realized that we are food insecure and there's not a lot of food access living on campus, living on ourselves. It's all new to us, and creating this podcast has motivated me to start my own garden at home, and I'm currently growing my own food. I'm starting off with herbs and tomatoes, and they're growing. And my last takeaway is it's important for younger people to be motivated to grow their own food and have a strong background in food education and learn about what they're consuming. I wish food education was promoted to me when I was in elementary school, just because I feel like I got all this knowledge very recently, and if I got it when I was younger, I would have been doing way more. But I plan to do more because I am still young in the future. Moving forward, I plan to work towards expanding community garden programs and spaces like churches, mosques, schools, etc., etc. The project will enable members of the community to have hands-on experience growing their own crops, understanding the importance of organic practices, and practicing sustainable food production. On my podcast, I have talked about this with some of the people who I podcast, and some of the things that they would like implemented is knowing a little bit about the land that they're on and what seeds origin from their area, and understanding where their food really comes from and how it's grown. And I wanted to provide some community resources for people living in Montgomery County. And I provided the farms of the two farmers, the two people who I interviewed with farming backgrounds, and Mana Foods. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Amina. As I mentioned before, the diverse topics. So we have energy justice, we have funding opportunities, and also food sovereignty and a podcast. I feel like for everyone watching and for everyone who's participating in the audience, this program started in April 2023, and essentially the first part of the program was a 10-week training modules space where all of our cohort members, were able to learn about different environmental justice issues, climate justice issues, focusing on adaptation, green infrastructure. We had some moments where it was so heavy. I think we really bonded as a group, and then we were able to get to that space of hope and knowing that there are things that we can do when we would move into mapping tools, or even speaking on like maybe policy on funding. So this was a really just sitting down there and listening to all of you, I got a little emotional, not gonna lie. I didn't think about it until, yikes. I didn't think about it until now that it is a combination right now, but it's still a beautiful beginning. And for all of you online and for all of you who have attended, the Climate Justice Fellows, you will always have a friend in me. And I hope you continue to, I don't want to say utilize, but utilize this partnership. You have my email and you have my number. So with that being said, thank you so much for attending our last Climate Justice Fellow session. I hope you enjoy the closing plenary of the symposium, the 2023 symposium. My name is Ariel Watson, and we will see you later. Thank you.